I'm Peter Passmore, Professor of Ageing Geriatric Medicine at Queen's University Belfast, and today I was chairing the annual GM conference at the Royal Society of Medicine. So the issues we've discussed today have been fairly wide-ranging. It's generally expected to be a very good update. So I think the first talks dealt with the issue around atrial fibrillation. There was a talk about how to facilitate implementation of NICE guidance, and it also related to what developments there may be in QOF. Strong messages came out of that in relation to doing the CHADS-2 VASC score, and also just getting prepared for the next round of QOF in terms of the awareness of atrial fibrillation in the population, the GP population that folk were looking after. And then the second talk there dealt with atrial fibrillation itself, concentrating on novel anticoagulants, their place, and providing large audit data and outcome data from Dudley in the Midlands about that. So very useful information there. The second talk was a focus on urinary incontinence. Again, very definitive messages come out of that. The fact that in very old people there was quite a lot you could do, and that urinary incontinence was treatable. It wasn't necessary to move straight to pads, and also mentioning the problems with use of oxybutynin in single dose in frail elderly people. We then had an interesting talk on common skin problems in old people, and again this was just more or less a refresher on the type of problems that you'll see dermatology in old people, and how to pick those up and what to do with them. And the final talk of the morning was about COPD. It reflected the need to risk stratify these patients and the need to deal with exacerbations and actually prevent those, which would reduce mortality and have an overall benefit. In the next session after lunch, there was an update on diabetes. This focused on the importance of detecting hypoglycemia and the awareness about that. There was then a run through all the new drugs that are available for treatment of diabetes in older people and putting them in the context of older people, thus helping to deliver a pathway for the attendees as to how they would move through the management of that situation. After that, we had a talk on polypharmacy and frailty, and the importance of dealing with comorbidity, how to detect frailty, and the importance of medication review. There then followed a talk about bone health. And this was very useful overview. It put all the treatments into context. This is a very mobile landscape, and there have been a number of changes, in fact, even in the last 2 weeks. So all of those were updated, and again, very practical information provided to both primary and secondary care doctors in the audience. The other talks, there was a talk about value-based pricing, which was an indication of how difficult it was with new drugs coming to the market and what the government was going to base the availability of those on. And again, I think that was useful for people in the audience to hear, to realise what the issues were and how the new drugs could be got to market, and in terms of the difficulties with the financial situation that we all have to deal with. And then I dealt just with issues around dementia. It was more or less an overview talk. It's been quite a lot in the press recently, so I discussed issues around the new proposals for diagnosis, the use of biomarkers, what happens in relation to nutritional supplements, all the data and publication recently there's been around vitamins, and also talked about screening and prevention. So overall, I think there's been a few points from every presentation. A lot of this is about reinforcement about people's practice, but in essence, I think it also serves as a reminder for all of us, and it is a good update, that there are always little things on each talk that you add to your clinical repertoire, and it just makes for better clinical practice in older people.